because this industry is a monster.
I understand what it's worth doing when the industry is canceling one black guy. I know what happens when they are going to elevate another.
Everybody wants to know, why'd you walk away from $50 million?
I wasn't walking away from the money.
Yeah.
I was walking away from the circumstances.
Not they offered him $50 million and he turned it down. Who gonna turn down $50 million?
They're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. They are trying to kill me.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal?
Oprah's empire might be on shaky ground, and the ones shaking it? None other than Dave Chappelle and Katt Williams. These two comedy giants aren't just cracking jokes anymore. They're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's ugliest truths, and Oprah's name is right there in the middle of it. For years, Chappelle hinted that powerful elites tried to silence him, claiming he was pushed out of the spotlight for refusing to play their game.
So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bull.
Now, with Katt Williams backing him up, the whispers are turning into shouts, and the stories surrounding Oprah are getting harder to ignore. The pair are calling out what they say are Oprah's deep ties to the industry's darkest circles, painting her not as the beloved talk show queen, but as a player in a much bigger, messier game of control. Could this really be the downfall of one of the most untouchable names in entertainment? What's she been hiding all these years, and how far does the trail go? And let's not forget Chappelle's own shocking moment, walking away from a jaw-dropping $50 million deal at the peak of his fame. Who does that unless the pressure behind the scenes was too much to take? People swore Dave Chappelle had lost it. They laughed, they whispered, they branded him as unstable. But the real question is, what went down behind those Hollywood doors that made him run all the way to Africa? He didn't walk away from the money, no. He walked away from the people behind the money, the ones who wanted his soul locked in their system. And guess who sits right in the middle of that web? Oprah herself.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. Oprah coming next.
The woman the world sees as beloved is being painted as a gatekeeper, pulling strings to make sure anyone who won't play the game gets silenced. If Dave didn't toe the line, he wasn't just out of work, he was out of Hollywood altogether.
The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
At the height of his career, adored worldwide, with $50 million dangling in front of him, Dave should have been untouchable. But fame came with a shadow, and that shadow turned into a storm. Suddenly, the same industry that lifted him up was tearing him down, calling him crazy, and whispering about addictions. They smeared his name so brutally, it followed him home, right in front of his own kids. Behind closed doors, powerful forces weren't just pressuring him, they were working overtime to break him. And when Dave refused to bow down, they didn't just mock him, they blacklisted him. The same doors that once swung open for Dave suddenly slammed in his face. Overnight, he went from comedy's golden child to a problem that had to be silenced. But Dave never stayed quiet. He's been dropping hints for years in interviews, little breadcrumbs for anyone paying attention. And if you connect those dots, the rabbit hole is darker than most people can even imagine. He once said, "The worst thing you can call somebody is crazy."
Like, I'm not a person anymore. You say this shit about me in front of my children, and who the do these people think they are?
These people aren't crazy. Maybe the environment is a little sick. That wasn't just a clever line. It was a shot fired at Hollywood's twisted underbelly, the same poisonous scene Oprah's been swimming in for decades. The moment Dave started asking real questions, refusing to bow down to the narrative, that's when his world turned upside down. Remember when he said, "They're trying to kill me"? That wasn't a punchline, it was a warning. A desperate cry for help in an industry where powerful names control everything. This wasn't a breakdown. It was survival against forces that wanted him erased. Hollywood's elites, with Oprah right in the middle, wanted him crushed, silenced, forgotten. And truthfully, they almost pulled it off. But Dave wasn't standing alone in the fire. Katt Williams, another veteran who knows exactly how dirty the game gets, was right there backing him up. While the world called Dave crazy, Katt was the one saying, no, he didn't just walk away from $50 million, he walked away from the trap set by Hollywood itself.
This industry is a monster.
All lies will be exposed, that's all.
According to Katt Williams, the truth is even darker than anyone suspected. Hollywood didn't just blacklist Dave, they tried to break him, piece by piece. Katt has never been shy about calling out the machine that chews people up and spits them out, and he's made it crystal clear. Oprah sits right at the top of that food chain. Katt recently doubled down in front of audiences, claiming that the story behind Dave's so-called meltdown is far more sinister than the public was ever told. And the Oprah connection? It's no coincidence. Some of the most powerful names in the game, Oprah included, are tangled up with the very forces Dave and Katt have been warning us about for years. Think about it. Oprah's always been arm in arm with Hollywood's biggest moguls. On camera, she's a symbol of hope, inspiration, and success, but behind the scenes, she's rubbing shoulders with the gatekeepers who decide who gets to shine and who gets buried. And now Dave and Katt are ripping the mask right off, exposing the dark side that's been carefully hidden for decades. So why would Oprah, of all people, want Dave Chappelle blacklisted? The answer is simple: control. Oprah's influence in Hollywood runs deep, and anyone who refuses to play by the rules becomes a threat. Dave was growing too powerful, too independent, too unpredictable, qualities that make the elite nervous. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. You lost your mind. You belong in a mental institution. But the truth? Dave wasn't broken. He was rejecting their game, and that made him dangerous to people like Oprah who live off controlling the system. And let's not forget, this fight isn't just about Dave or Katt. This is about what happens to anyone who dares to step out of line. This isn't just about one man. It's about an entire machine built to crush anyone who dares to think differently, anyone brave enough to speak the truth. Dave Chappelle saw straight through the Hollywood illusion, the fake smiles, the backstabbing friendships, the toxic playground where power rules everything, and he walked away. But Oprah? She never left. She's still in the game, still moving pieces from the shadows, still sitting with the elite who run the show. Katt Williams, who's been smeared as crazy himself just for calling this out, has been warning us for years. They don't want you to know what's really happening. They want you to swallow the version of events that they feed you, and their story? That Dave just lost his mind and walked away from millions like it was nothing. But the real truth? It's far more disturbing. Dave wasn't walking away. He was fighting for his life, his sanity, his very identity, while Oprah and her powerful allies pulled the strings to destroy him. Katt has been screaming from the rooftops that Hollywood is rotten to the core, and only now are the cracks starting to show. Oprah is not who the world thinks she is. The fact she's been able to polish her image so perfectly for so long only proves how deep her ties go with the elite. Hollywood's dark side is real, and every time someone dares to expose it, they end up paying a dangerous price. We've seen this play out again and again. Celebrities who get too close to the truth, who dare to push back against the system, suddenly end up silenced, ridiculed, or blacklisted. And Dave Chappelle? He became the perfect example of exactly that. At the peak of his fame, with Chappelle's show dominating pop culture, the world thought he had it all. But behind the cameras, a war was brewing. Hollywood was never just about money and fame. It was about control. And when Comedy Central dangled $50 million in front of Dave for another season, it wasn't just a paycheck. They wanted his voice, his message, his creative freedom locked down. But Dave wasn't about to let his art be hijacked. He saw straight through the contract, and when he refused to bow to their demands, the empire turned on him. He spoke about it openly, warning that art should never be reduced to a commodity. He even said in an interview, an artist, if you're good at it, should never behave as a commodity. He broke it down further. My biggest gripe with the controversy around The Closer is that you can't report on an artist's work and strip away the nuance from their words. It's like reading a headline that says, "Man shot in the face by a 6-foot rabbit expected to survive," and nobody tells you it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon. That was the game they played, twisting his words, smearing his name, trying to paint him as unstable. But they didn't stop there. When Dave refused to fold, they didn't just walk away, they tried to break him. They even refused to pay him what he was rightfully owed, using their power to blacklist him and drag his reputation through the mud. Even after Dave turned down that $50 million, Comedy Central wasn't about to just let him walk away. They went after him with everything they had, launching a smear campaign that nearly destroyed his reputation. Suddenly, the media was blasting out headlines calling him crazy and unstable. But let's be real, this wasn't some random media frenzy. This was a coordinated takedown. Dave was getting too close to exposing how Hollywood really works, and the elites wanted to make an example out of him. When Dave refused to cave, they blacklisted him. Years later, he addressed it head-on in a comedy special, saying, "If you quit a show like Chappelle's show, I don't know if you know what happens to you professionally, but I'll tell you what doesn't happen. They don't just say, well, good luck in your future endeavors. They beat me up with their power. They tried to make me behave. That wasn't a joke. That was a confession." Dave admitted it took real strength to stand out in the cold like that. When he realized Comedy Central had done him dirtier than even Fox ever did, he was crushed, heartbroken, but not hopeless. He went back to his community, asking for support because the weight of Hollywood's machine was too heavy to carry alone.
It was so much money. How could you do that? And blah, blah, blah. But if I had taken that money and finished the show, I would have got the money, but I might never have been the same.
At that point, he had no choice but to disappear, go off the grid, and protect himself. But when he came back, he didn't just return with jokes. He came back with warnings about an industry that thrives on manipulation, control, and silencing anyone who refuses to bow down. Dave Chappelle chose integrity over everything, but it cost him dearly. Still, fans stood by him, echoing his words. The industry is wicked. Remember when Dave dropped that line about Hollywood being a monster? That wasn't comedy, it was prophecy. And now he's proving it, calling out Oprah Winfrey herself. Even after smiling on her couch, acting like everything was sweet, Dave flipped the script and straight up exposed her in his special. Dave didn't bite his tongue. He went straight for the jugular. He flat out called out Hollywood's so-called beloved elites, naming Oprah as one of the biggest players who sold out for fame and fortune. And he didn't sugarcoat it. He said it plain. They were in on the whole thing. He admitted, "I felt so wronged. I felt so stupid." You can feel the betrayal in those words, like he's finally confirming what he's been hinting at for years. What's Dave really saying? That people like Oprah have been knee-deep in this game for a long time, playing both sides. To the public, they look like saints. But behind the curtain, they're part of the very machine tearing artists apart. Dave even pointed out that Hollywood's image, the smiles, the inspiration, the so-called role models, is nothing but a performance. He reportedly said that once you see their real faces, you won't even be able to stomach them. Too diabolical to bear. Then came one of his most chilling lines. "It's the same monster those Me Too women were warning you about. They hate the monster for how it touches. I hate the monster for how it consumes. But my God, it's the same monster." That's where Oprah's name keeps circling back. On the outside, she's all love and light, but Dave made it clear she's been moving in the shadows, part of a system that crushes anyone who dares to step out of line. Look closely at the past, and you'll see it. Oprah at the center of controversies, accused of sabotaging critics, blacklisting rivals, and keeping her image squeaky clean while the dirt piles up behind her. And now, with her name all over the headlines for how she operates in the media world, Dave's words feel heavier than ever. He warned us about the monster, and now he's pointing right at Oprah. Oprah's name has been dragged into some of the darkest scandals tied to Hollywood's most infamous power players: Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, and Russell Simmons. Several stars have even accused her of protecting Weinstein, and one of the loudest critics was actress Rose McGowan. Rose didn't hold back, tweeting, "I am glad more are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish you were real, but you aren't." From being pals with Weinstein to abandoning and destroying Russell Simmons' sick victims, she's about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She's as fake as they come, number lizard. Singer Seal also spoke out, accusing Oprah of enabling both Epstein and Weinstein. And that raised even bigger questions about her role in Hollywood's most toxic power circles. Whispers have circulated for years that her alleged ties to Epstein ran much deeper than she ever admitted, with rumors that she knew far more than she let on. Some even claimed she was connected to the shadowy networks surrounding him, allegations that shocked her fan base. When the rumors exploded online, Oprah rushed to deny it all. She tweeted, "Just got a phone call that my name is trending and being trolled for some awful fake thing. It's not true. Haven't been raided or arrested, just sanitizing and self-distancing with the rest of the world. Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe, everybody." Those were Oprah's own words when rumors first started swirling online. But the unraveling of her role in Hollywood's dark web took a shocking twist when her ties to the so-called healer John of God resurfaced. This wasn't just a minor slip-up, it looked like part of a much bigger, much uglier pattern that's been following her for years. John of God, a man Oprah once showcased on her platform and even praised publicly, was later sentenced to 63 years in prison for unspeakable crimes against hundreds of women. Yet before his downfall, Oprah claimed she'd had a profound experience with him. Imagine how that sounds now, knowing what we know about who he really was. And that's not the only moment where Oprah's influence has raised eyebrows. Supermodel Cindy Crawford revealed an unsettling memory from her early career, when she was just 20 years old and appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Cindy described the moment as feeling less like a human being and more like property, paraded for display instead of treated with dignity. Cindy Crawford looked back on one of the most uncomfortable moments of her early career, and it happened right in front of a live studio audience with Oprah Winfrey running the show. Oprah asked the young model to stand up and show off her body, turning what should have been a career milestone into something Cindy would carry for years.
People think I made a lot of money for Chappelle's show. When I left that show, I never got paid.
At the time, she didn't even realize just how objectified she'd been. Only later did the weight of that humiliation hit her. It didn't stop there. Instead of directing thoughtful questions to Cindy herself, Oprah turned to her manager and asked, "Did you have to groom her? Did she always have this body?" Then Oprah circled back and told Cindy to stand again so the crowd could see her. Cindy later admitted, "I was like the chattel or a child, be seen and not heard." Looking back now, the moment feels chilling. Oprah's words sounded less like encouragement and more like, "Stand up, show us why you deserve to be here." Cindy confessed, "I was so traumatized. I really felt I was not seen as a person with a voice in her own destiny." This was Oprah, the woman celebrated for empathy. Yet in that moment, she was feeding the very toxic culture of control she claimed to rise above. And when Cindy's reflections went public, Oprah's team reacted fast. The interview quietly vanished from YouTube, raising eyebrows about whether she was trying to bury her role in Hollywood's long-running exploitation of women. Even Oprah's close friend Gayle King weighed in, saying she was surprised and a little disappointed to hear Cindy's comments. Gayle tried to soften the blow, insisting it was never Oprah's style to humiliate anyone. But the footage itself tells a very different story, one that left Cindy feeling powerless. Pair this with Oprah's ties to disgraced figures like John of God, and suddenly the cracks in her perfect image are impossible to ignore. The so-called untouchable media queen is looking more and more like a key player in a system that controls the narrative, amplifies chosen voices, and silences the rest. No wonder comedians like Dave Chappelle and Katt Williams keep pointing straight at her as part of the problem. Plenty of fans are convinced Oprah's not nearly as innocent as she wants the world to believe. One blunt commenter even wrote, "Oprah is one of the bad guys." And lately, that belief has only gained steam, especially after Shannon Sharpe's Club, Shay Shay podcast blew up thanks to Katt Williams' explosive interview. That sit-down pulled the curtain back on Hollywood's biggest names, and Oprah's name was right in the mix. But here's the kicker. Shortly after that episode took the internet by storm, rumors started swirling that the powers that be were moving to cancel the show altogether. Why? Because too many secrets were spilled, and the elites don't like their dirty laundry being aired. And Katt? He hasn't slowed down one bit. He's now openly joining the chorus of those exposing Hollywood's most powerful players. According to Katt, even some of the industry's biggest viral moments, like Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, weren't raw or real at all. He claims they were staged events, carefully orchestrated by elites to humiliate black celebrities while keeping the profits rolling in. Humiliation as entertainment. That's how the system works, if you believe Katt. One fan agreed wholeheartedly, tweeting, "Elites as usual have that slave grip on blacks. They use black celebs with a little power to divide and conquer, keeping us fighting at the bottom. Obvious, but simple tactic that always works." And Katt didn't stop there. In another interview with Jamal Finkley on Black Tree TV, he cracked open another Hollywood tradition, the infamous dress ritual. He brought up Kevin Hart wearing a dress on SNL, but made it clear he wasn't the only one. Eddie Murphy, Jamie Foxx, big names have all played along, according to Katt. And in the cutthroat world of showbiz, that revelation is beyond controversial.
This is an interview I wasn't sure would ever happen. One of the most famous spiritual healers in the world rarely talks to anyone on camera.
But this wasn't the only instance where Oprah's influence raised eyebrows.
Katt Williams pointed out the twisted irony behind Hollywood's jokes. How crowds laugh when a black man is put in a dress, but would the reaction be the same if it were someone else? He didn't think so. To Katt, that laughter wasn't harmless. It was a setup, a way of reducing powerful black men into caricatures for the world's amusement. Even though Kevin Hart was already a superstar when he put on that dress for SNL, Katt hinted that Kevin probably had his reasons for doing it. Pressures, deals, or expectations that the public will never fully see. At the same time, Katt showed respect, making it clear he wasn't attacking Kevin personally. He was exposing the system that keeps putting black entertainers in that position over and over again. Williams stressed that this isn't new. It's a pattern, a cycle that many artists face throughout their careers, designed to chip away at their public image and strip them of dignity. And his warning didn't stop there. He tied these humiliating traditions to something bigger, what he called a secret society lurking behind the curtains of the entertainment world. He named it outright the Illuminati. According to Katt, this shadowy group holds enormous influence, even facing pushback from within the black community itself. And what makes his claims even more explosive? He said evidence of this club has already surfaced under a different name, the Good Club. Katt described it as the most exclusive circle in the world, a gathering of billionaire power players disguised as philanthropists. The names he dropped were enough to shake anyone. Bill Gates, George Soros, Warren Buffett, familiar figures tied to what he claims is a global elite pulling strings from the shadows. Oprah Winfrey's name wasn't the only one Katt Williams threw into the fire. He also mentioned heavyweight elites like David Rockefeller and Ted Turner, and even lesser-known billionaires like Eli and Edith Broad, who may not be household names but carry just as much financial clout. According to Katt, this so-called Good Club isn't just a social circle. It's a shadow network pushing an agenda, one that black artists need to be extremely cautious around. Katt issued a warning straight from experience. Watch out. He says he's lived through the manipulation, the intimidation, and the fallout from speaking too loudly. His honesty, what he thought was simply telling the truth, has been twisted against him time and again, leaving him labeled, mocked, and attacked. But instead of breaking him, it opened his eyes to just how deep the game goes. Katt admitted he didn't expect the backlash to be so harsh, but in hindsight, he believes those hidden elites benefited from the chaos, using it to keep artists divided and under control. And when you look at what happened to Dave Chappelle, blacklisted, smeared, and nearly erased, it becomes the clearest example of what happens when someone refuses to bow down to the system. The grip Hollywood has on its stars is powerful, and according to Katt, Oprah has been right there in the middle of it, helping maintain the machine that silences anyone who dares to step out of line. But here's the twist. Neither Dave nor Katt has bowed out. Dave is still standing tall, still pushing back, still fearless. And Katt? He's not backing down either. Together, they're peeling the mask off Hollywood, exposing the version of the industry they don't want you to see, the one Oprah has allegedly helped protect all along. That's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment on this video. And trust me, you'll want to be here for the next one.